Hello everyone, my name is Pimphot Seelakate. I'm from Chulalongkorn University based in Bangkok, Thailand. So today I'm glad that I have a chance to participate in the virtual seminar series organized by the Society of American Archivists. So today I would like to present about the archival landscapes in Thailand. So the topics that I will cover today consist of three areas. The first topic is about the local context that shape archival practices in Thailand, including legislation, standards, and organization. The second topic is the external operating environment impacting on Thai archival practices, which I would mention the 4 case examples and the issues related to these cases. And the last topic is my suggestion for the archival practices improvement. Right. So in 2018, I conduct the research on the factors impacting on archival practices in Thailand, and I use the National Archive of Thailand as my case studies. And there are many elements that became the factors. So I would like to start by mentioning these 3 factors that you see in the blue circle first. So let's start with the record keeping legislation in Thailand. So in my country, there are many pieces of the legislations that you can see on the screen. And I would like to say that not all pieces of the legislation were created intentionally for managing records and archive. But again, some legislation provide the guideline and the methods about how to manage the information held by the public agencies. Right. So after consulting the literatures relating to record keeping legislation, it is found that the legislation is important and has a big impact on archive management because first it set the definitions of what records and archives are, and this definition also shape the framework for the archival professionals at national level. And also there is a lack of comprehensive and fully detailed guidelines or procedures on the archive management for the government agencies and archival practitioners. So this leads to the failure to effectively enforce the law. And another result regarding to the legislation is that there is a lack of awareness and knowledge about record keeping in Thai society, which become an obstacle to fully implement this legislation. And the last issue is about the legislation itself, because some legislation, it's not only introduced a new concept to Thai society, but it also introduced the concept that contrast with the tradition and norms in Thai society. For example, the Freedom of Information Act, or the OIA, which is Official Information Act 1997, which provide the right to know or the right to access to the information held by the government agencies. And this is the new thing in our society. So it takes some time to fully implement this Freedom of Information Act. So in this table, this is the example of terms relating to records and archive management that appear in the content, in the regulations and laws. Right. Many research conducted by Thai scholar shows that only 30% of the government agencies transfer the public records to the National Archive. And there are two factors contributing to this failure. The first factor is that the law enforcement and the spirit of law itself, it results in the lack of the readiness of the people or the agency that responsible for implementing the act, because the government agencies are not ready to comply with the legislation. And the second factor is the lack of mechanism established for record transfer to the National Archive. So the researcher, which is Kutiam, he mentioned that the result is the unknown of where records have been kept and which and when records should be transferred. This is because the government agency doesn't have the file plan and doesn't have the records retention schedule. So they don't have the policy to collect and transfer the records, and they don't have the knowledge and awareness, and they also don't have the methods of the way to manage the records, and also they don't have the proper system established in their agency, and also they don't have the standards or the guidelines or any procedures in order to keep their records properly. Right. So the next element is standards and standardization system. Right. So the National Archive of Thailand, they established the national standards for archival practices. The first standards that I would like to mention here, it's the performance indicator standards appear in the Principle of Fundamental Administration and Archive Management manual, as you can see on your left-hand side. And the second standard is for preservation. Right. And also in Thailand, some archival institutions, they implement international archival standards, for example, the IS-80G of the ICA. So this proves that implementing international standards in Thai context is feasible. So these are some examples of those archival institutions that adopt international standards. And you can see that some of them are the university archives, and some of them are the National Archive. Right. So the next element is the organization characteristic. So the type of the archives also has the impact on the practices. In Thailand, there are various types of archive. As you can see from the screen, we have the National Archives, and we also have the regional branches of the National Archives. And we also have the Special Archive, which works as the National Archive. For example, this one is the His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej archives, which preserve the personal collection about the royal family. And there are also government archives. For example, the Museum and Archive of the Thai Public Relations Department, or the Astronomical Research Institute of Thailand Archives. And we also have the archives about public health. There are also business archives. For example, Bank of Thailand archives, the SCB archives, and the Bank of Agriculture and Agricultural Cooperatives archives. Okay, this is another example of the business archive run by the private organization, and this is Big Green Group of Companies Archives. And on your right-hand side, you can see the example of religious archives, which is Puttatat in Tapanyo Archives, based in Bangkok. And we also have charity archives. This is Dabot Foundation, working as the alternative vocational school. And we also have a lot of community archives. For example, the archive at the Cao Hong Market community in Suphanburi province, or the MC Cultural Home, which is based outside Bangkok. Okay. And many archives that exist in Thailand are university archives. We have nearly 30 university archives all over the country. So we have the Memory Hall of Chulalongkorn University. We have the, for example, Mahidol University Archives and Museum, or Srinakarin Virod University Archive. Right. So the organization characteristic, it also has an impact on archival practices in that organization. So the example that I would like to mention here is the example from the public university archives. So there are many literature about this topic, and they found out that most public university archives administered by the libraries, the university libraries, and the funding are from the parental organization, which is the university itself. And the archives, as a result, needs to share the office or the working space with other departments, and the budget is mainly received from the university. And these archival materials also are acquired from donation, and it has no acquisition regulation, including the appraisal procedure and system. So it means that there is no specific regulation in order to transfer the records from the departments in order to keep in the university archives. Right. Moreover, many of staff are librarians, so they may not have the specific knowledge and skill about the archival management. And most of them have a bachelor degrees in the field of library science and information science. And senior management, they have a degree, master degree, in the field of library science and information science as well. And there is an effort to establish the Digital University Archive Network among the university archive in Thailand. And the first initiative effort was in 2005, but this network focused on digital content preservation and sharing digital archival materials. Right. After we talking about the local context in Thailand, now I would like to mention about the issues of the external operating environment regarding archival practices through these 4 case examples. So the factors that you see in the green circle, it includes political factor, information technological factor, economic factor, and also educational factor. And I would like to briefly mention about it through the issues that I brought here. So the first issue is about the definition of record and archive. So after consulting the literature conducted by Thai scholars, all of them agree that the definition of records and archive in Thailand has this slightly different meaning when compared to the universal or Western concept of records and archive. The reason behind it is that, as you can see from the diagram on your left-hand side, the archival practices in Thailand can date back until 13th century. So this is the legacy from the long and ancient archival practices that exist in our society. So it shaped how people, how Thai society perceive archives. So in modern archival theories, the records are complete documents contain 7 elements, which are content, context, structure, integrity, authenticity, reliability, and usability. But in Thailand, according to the existing legislation, they define archive and records, for example, as the documents that are first, documents that sent or received from the other departments, or it can be the documents that are created as the evidence or to comply with the legislation. And last, records can be the documents written to provide information. So you can see that the Thai legislation, they don't imply or implement the concept of the modern archival theory, and they don't mention 7 elements of being evidence. Okay, in terms of the definition of archives, so Thai society generally understand the word จดหมายเหตุ or archive as recording of work or a piece of writing in summary about any important events occurred chronologically. So this activity or this จดหมายเหตุ in Thai perception is equal as the calendar in Western culture. But this concept of archive has changed through times, because right now the archives are non-current documents, or the archives can be the documentaries, or it can mean historical books or chronicles of the historical value regarding Thai history or historical events. So the definition of archives in Thai society, it's stick to the paradigm of being memory and cultural heritage. Right. So as you can see from the diagram, the definition of records and archive in Thailand identifies a lack of integration of records and archives, and also Thai perception of archive as memory and heritage. And this perspective determines the role of the National Archive to perform its function. The second issues that I would like to mention here is about the local administration and decentralized record-keeping model. So this issue relates to the political change and public reform in Thai bureaucracy. There is the legislation about the decentralized public administration, and in that piece of legislation, it mentioned that every province should establish its own archives and also should establish its own museums, local museums. But in fact, the research of Thai scholar show us that it is not easy to establish the provincial archives, because first, it is found that currently there is unstandardized of the provincial administration organization record-keeping units, and they have poor record-keeping practices. And also the provincial administration organization, they are not ready to establish the local archives due to the lack of budget, the lack of policy, and also they don't have the enough numbers of professional archivists. And also, even though there is a big demand for the local archives to preserve public records, artifacts, or local handicrafts, together with the display in the form of local museum. But we can see that this perspective is stick to only one paradigm, which is the archive should be for memory and cultural heritage purpose, but they don't mention about archive or records be the evidence to support transparency or accountability of the administration system. Right, so the third issue is about the Thai community archives and the concept of provenance. So the research tells us that the motivation for Thai community archives establishment is made up of many individuals rather than by the government agencies. And the lack of any interface between community collections and traditional repositories means that none of the communities define their holding as an archive. So they see their community archive as local museums, and they see the archival materials as the object. And also, Thai communities were less focused on the issues of individual creation or individual ownership, but these issues implied by the concept of authorship and provenance is generally found in the Western discourse. The reason behind that is that traditional Thai communities based in oral culture more than in textual communication. So the archival materials that are created by the community, they have the sense of the shared collection rather than belongs to one particular individuals. The last issue that I would like to mention here is about the context of archives and archival education in Thailand. So the context of archives and archivists in Thailand are different from the Western concept. So this leads to a big question for the archival educational institution or the university, that if they provide the archival knowledge or if they prepare the graduate based on the Western concept, this may not respond to the needs of the Thai archival workplace because they would stick to the traditional perception of what archives and what archivists are in Thai society. And this also raises another big question, whether Thailand needs professional archivists. So the demand to study an archival postgraduate program will not increase, and the program cannot be developed unless the status of the Thai archivist as a professional group has been recognized, and Thailand should deem that there is a need for professional archivists. Moreover, at present, there is only one formal archival postgraduate program in Thailand, which is at Seelakate University. And due to the limited number of the archival scholars in Thailand, only field research were conducted to enhance the archival skills and expertise of practitioners that work in the archival institutions. So, as a result, archival practices, archival principles, archival theories applicable to Thai context were rarely developed. And these issues regarding context of archives and archival education in Thailand prevent the specification of, first, the body of archival knowledge applicable to Thailand. And it also prevents the qualification, knowledge, and skill that Thai archivists should have. And lastly, it also prevents the specification of the role and responsibility of professional archivists in Thailand. Right. So the last topic that I would like to mention today is some suggestions for improvement. So the first suggestion is that it is need to develop knowledge in records and archival science in Thailand by adopting archival multiverse concept. And secondly, among the government agency or the archival practices institution at the national level, there is a need to shift their archival practices to modern archival theories in order to serve the citizen in the 21st century democratic society. And the last suggestion from me is that it is need to strengthen Thai workforce in records and archive community in order that they can be able to work professionally. Okay, thank you for your attention. And if you have any further question regarding my presentation, please feel free to contact me. And also, if you would like to read the literature regarding my presentation or regarding the archival practices in Thailand, you can access to the list of bibliography that I collected through this QR code. Right. Have a nice day and thank you for your attention.